And as a deeply hypersensitive person, I'm fully aware that being able to feel the hardest feelings somehow also equates to me being able to feel some of the most highest feelings. Hello, and welcome back to Embodying Mystical Mac. I'm Mac, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I feel so good to be back. Finally recording my Elemental review, and we are going to get to that, but I do have a really fun announcement before I get to it. Before we get to the announcement, though, let me just, tell you what the outfit is if you are a podcast listener. Thank you so much for supporting that medium, by the way. I am currently wearing a red and blue flannel, of course, to represent our homies, Wade and Ember. And I also have like a red sports bra on underneath the flannel. That kind of already was the outfit, but then I put on the flannel because I was cold and I saw, oh my God, red and blue. This is exactly what we need right now, right? So if you're listening on the podcast, that's what I've got going on to represent the vibe today for the Elemental review. But to my announcement, let's just get right into my announcement. I have entered a little competition. I'm a karaoke enthusiast, and for those of you who don't know, I am a singer. So I love to go karaoke and use it as sort of a performance training tool. And I entered this competition called Karaoke Knockout, and lo and behold, I was accepted to make a profile and all that. And essentially, they're gonna have people vote, and 8 of us are gonna go perform or compete essentially in a karaoke competition here in LA. So if you would be so inclined, I would really deeply appreciate your support in this. Voting starts February 19th. I will be putting the link below in all my videos up until then, as well as announcing it. So I'm really excited. I really hope I get into the competition. If I don't, we live, but I'm really excited and I do hope I get into it. So thank you, and let's get into Elemental. Y'all, it took me so long to get to this review because I could not conceptualize my love for this film in a small amount of time. I couldn't. I couldn't. And in fact, I've annotated other videos since then. I've lined up other topics since then. But I realized that I really just had to watch through the whole movie for a third time and take notes throughout, because this is the kind of film that by the third watch, I am just mesmerized with the details and the intricacies that connect the entire story as well as its characters and themes in the interim, right? In the in-between moments. And so I realized that I couldn't just put notes down from memory, because this was very similar, but on the opposite spectrum, as in the sense I was doing it because I love it, not because it irks my bones. Is that a new expression? I don't know. Nothing is new. Anyway, I realized that I kind of had to do it the Wheel of Time way, which is I watch through it and I jot things down, right? For Wheel of Time, I'm doing that because most of what they're doing is not working. And for Elemental, I'm doing this because most of what they do is working, or rather did work. I can't get my proper tenses here. Most of what they did actually did work, and it deserved a proper notation. So I've got my trusty water bottle here because this might be a long video, y'all. So let's get into it. I suppose I will give you a little bit of a spoiler-free review. If you would like to experience, if you would like to see genuine relationships, if you would like to see characters who have struggles that they need to overcome, who figure out how to overcome them, if you would like to genuinely be reinvigorated in your love for animation and children's films, particularly Disney and Pixar, please watch this movie. I cannot tell you how impactful this movie is to me personally. I can't speak for anyone else, but if there's anybody out there that is at all like me, and if you've been here, you know what I'm like a little bit, you'll probably really like this. The characters are solid. The plot is interesting, albeit not all that complicated, and the concept is just brought to life in such a beautiful and innovative way. I mean, honestly, Elemental and Turning Red have been some of my favorite Pixar creations as of late, and Elemental might just be like one of my favorite movies of absolutely all time. And this is because not only do you go kind of through the full spectrum of emotions, but the transformations taking place, even though they are individual transformations within people, have, in this case, right, elementals, have beautiful repercussions. And we'll get into it, into the community, into all of Element City. If I have not convinced you yet, I don't know what else to tell you. So let's get into some more detailed notes here. The next little bit, I'm going to be talking about the themes of it, and then we'll just like dive right into like the screen or frame by frame notes sort of thing. Not that I actually took them frame by frame, because then in that way I will talk about how these themes fit and how this beautiful movie executes something that really is not simple at all, but feels simple in the sense that we all experience family. We all experience feeling like we've had ideals thrust upon us that we have to individualize away from. We all experience the first time that we really find a person that we vibe with, you know, or I'm sorry, not all, but a lot of us can relate to either having experienced those things or wanting to experience those things. Obviously, when I'm saying, most of us in this more gray area, I'm talking like the romantic side of it all. But a grand majority of us, be it found family or, you know, a family that we were adopted into or a family that we were born into, this movie genuinely just hits on these human things, and I loved it for it, honestly. And it's really interesting because these are not humans, these are elementals. So some of the themes include hope and new beginnings. This is basically exemplified by this pink balloon flying overhead when Ember's parents arrive in Element City. And later, Ember herself ends up creating a balloon. These are hot air balloons. And I guess in that case, Ember's was a hot air balloon, but in the other case, I believe it was just an air balloon. So she creates a hot air balloon to find the leaks with Wade, which builds their relationship, them floating around in the balloon trying to find it, and sparks a new hope in Ember. So already from the beginning, like, we're tying things in that we're not even gonna see till later. Love. love. Thank you, writers. So yeah, hope, new beginnings is a very big theme in Elemental. Characters getting away from, wow, my voice just cracked there. Characters getting away from what they knew to be true and learning new truths about themselves that may either contradict or intertwine, or seemingly contradict but actually end up intertwining with who they believed they already were. And on a grander scheme, Ember's parents come to Element City, and we start the story off with them. And they come to Element City because their home in the... I keep wanting to call it the Fire Nation. I know that's Avatar. I think it's Fireland, actually. I think it's pretty simple. I think they call it Fireland. But basically their homeland, their home there had been destroyed, and they needed a new life, and they came to Element City for that. Hope and new beginnings is a theme that we see developing throughout this film. Another theme that is very big is family and embracing ancestry for better and for worse. This tackles this includes things like generational expectations and trauma, as well as the parts of our ancestry that we really need to honor, right? While it's definitely important to look into that generational trauma, to break cycles, to do better by the next generation that comes after us, it's also really important to know what to hold on to from the generations prior. And this movie talks about that in its themes. Another big theme is listening to your feelings, listening to your emotions. Something that we find out, or not find out, but that gets insinuated very early on, because Ember has a temper, is the fact that maybe her temper is trying to tell her something. And don't you worry, for those of you that like maybe are just here because you're interested in this for whatever reason, but you haven't seen the film, I will go over the plot, but I just want to get through these themes first. Yes, so listening to your emotions, even, and maybe even especially, the ones you deem ugly or unacceptable, or the things you quote shouldn't feel. They are trying to tell you the most important things a lot of the time. This movie talks about that. Next, we have affection is meant to be shown in all its forms, and it heals. We'll get into this as we get into the detailed notes, but I love this as a theme. It's definitely not one of the major themes. I definitely just gave you like the 3 big major themes, but this is like more of a minor theme, and I really enjoy how it's like subliminally put in there. And lastly, we're better when we work together. And this one, again, in fact, it can actually be classified as like a major theme, but it's expressed, in my opinion, in like more minor ways, whereas the theme of hope and new beginnings, family and embracing ancestry, and listening to your feelings tends to be more in the forefront. So for those of you who have not seen it, and for those of you who need a bit of a refresher, let's just go through the elemental plot. I will attempt to do it very, very briefly. I've started to notate plots, so this will be my last like raw dog one. Wish me luck. Let's take a sip of water, shall we? You drink some too. And yes, that's May. Okay. Whew, okay. Elemental, I already told you. We start with Ember's parents coming to Element City. I guess before I tell you anything, Elemental is a movie about element people. Yes, humanoid beings that are made from the earthly elements that we know of, right? So earth, air, fire, and water. In this world of elementals, there are different segregated areas, right, where the water people live and the fire people live and the earth people live and the air people live. But there is this urban metropolis of of diversity between the elements, and that is Element City. And when Ember's parents become homeless because their home is destroyed in a tragedy, it is a tragedy, but like in a disaster, that's kind of how the movie makes it seem. They are forced to leave Fireland, and they come to Element City in seek of refuge and a new life. And things are very hard for them. We are very quickly shown that while earth, air, and water are very well integrated in Element City, fire is not yet quite as well integrated, even though we will find out that there are quite a bit of fire people there. We get this in the depiction of these murals that say like the first, second, third wave of elements, and we're missing a 4th wave, which would be the fire people. When they come to Element City, they realize that it is not made for fire people. They luckily sort of stumble into this place where they're able to set up a shop, like a fire shop, so all kinds of things that fire people would seek, so like fire land delicacies as far as food and drinks go. It's kind of like a little mart, you know what I mean? Like one of those like really sweet like mom and pop corner marts that you find, I don't know, in like older movies and probably still small towns. I just have not lived in a small town for a long time. The area around them sort of begins to thrive, and as Ember grows, you also get to see this community of fire people grow. So it's clear that, you know, the fire people, and I don't know what Firetown, that's what it is. It's clear that Firetown is very much a fruitful part of Element City, but you still seldom see like fire people integrating with the other elements, and you seldom see other elements integrating with fire people. And in fact, there are a couple of examples of people that they do, one being Wade and the other one being Claude. They are kind of like anomalies in that sense. Yes, so Ember grows up, and she grows up running the, helping dad run the shop, and it is her dream to be allowed to run it by herself and to have it be her shop, or so she thinks. So essentially, in order to see if she's ready for that, her dad allows her to run the red dot sale, and that is like their biggest day of the year. It tends to be very stressful, and Ember's big thing that she has a very hard time with is her temper. Meaning she loses it very easily at customers. If you've ever worked in customer service or hospitality, whether you were working as a receptionist somewhere, or you're a server, or even like a busser, or whatever it may be, you know exactly the frustrations that she deals with on occasion with customers. Being a young adult, I presume she's a young adult. The movie kind of makes it seem that way, because Wade has a job, she's getting ready to run the shop, so she's obviously not a teen or anything. So, but even as a young adult, she has a very difficult time with the clientele in the shop, and it's not even everyone or anything. She just really blows her fuse when when people don't understand things that ideally they probably should understand, because it's stated plainly and simply. But again, like I said, if you've ever worked in customer service, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So she ends up having a big mad meltdown during the red dot sale, and she blows out pipes all over the basement area, and water starts to leak into her dad's shop, which is really bad, obviously. So with her little firepower, right, her literal being, she puts together, she melts the pipe holes back together to kind of keep things under control. But before she can kind of do all that, Wade slips in through the pipes, and Wade is an inspector, a health inspector. He was trying to find the leak, because there's a leak, and he was trying to find the source of the leak, and he got pulled into the pipes when she got pulled into the shop when she blew the pipes, right, and pulled the water that way. And Wade is a water guy. Basically, what ends up happening is because of Ember kind of telling him too much about the shop in a way that she didn't expect to hurt, he ends up having to write a bunch of citations for the shop, because it's 100% not up to code, and her dad built it himself without any city infrastructure help, all of that junk. He feels really bad about it. This is a way that the movie, I'll get into this in the detailed notes, okay? Let's keep the plot brief, okay? Okay, he's really upset about it, but he's doing it anyway. Essentially, Ember has to go into Element City in order to try to catch him. And then this is something, she does say, the movie does state, it will take an act of God to get her across, that bridge or whatever the fuck it is, into Element City. And that is exactly what happens, right? Her dad's shop, literally being threatened to shut down. So she follows Wade all the way to the inspector. Basically, I think what ends up happening is they do end up putting the complaint through, but then at some point through the whole commotion, via a way that Wade is very good at connecting people, and we'll get into that, Ember is given a chance to find the source of the leak and report it to be repaired in exchange for the citations being dropped, because there should be no water in Firetown, obviously. So Element City isn't, as regressive as I guess it was when when Ember's parents first got there. I don't know why I can never remember their names. I don't know why, I'm so sorry, but I remember Ashva because she calls him Ashva a bunch of the time, but I know that that's his name. But regardless, there should be no water in Firetown, and so Gail, the head of the inspector department that Wade was part of, said that because this is kind of a double-sided issue, sure, the shop isn't up to code, but But also, there shouldn't be any water in Firetown, so that needs to get fixed first, right? Like, that's the top priority. And so they set out to find the leak. They end up finding the leak. Ember is able to fix it with some tempered glass. All seems well in the moment. In fact, she ends up going over to meet Wade's family. It's really lovely. It's really beautiful. We will get into that scene, or into that moment. Ember actually has a moment of realization that she's actually quite talented. And this happens with her fixing a glass vase or not a glass vase, a glass pitcher that a family member of Wade's breaks. And, being traumatized into knowing that, put it like this, we get a scene very early on where her temper breaks the glass in the display window in the shop, and because she can be fire, she literally very easily, without even a thought, blows the glass back out, rolls it back out, smooths it, and then it's absolutely perfectly back on the display case. So she literally is traumatized into fixing all her messes that she causes with her temper. And this knee-jerk reaction allows her to take the moment and essentially create this, what was a very plain picture. Now it is beautiful and colorful and a work of art, honestly. And Wade's mom realizes that and tells her that she has a friend who is the best, or is part of the best glass blowing and glass sculpting firm or something in their, I don't want to say country. I don't know what they call that, but it's far away. It's not in Element City. That's why I don't want to be in all of Element City. And she says that she put in a good word for her. And Ember is actually feels really accosted by this. And the reason she feels really accosted by this is because she doesn't actually want to run the shop. And this actually being recognized for something that is just about her probably is really uncomfortable, when her entire identity has always been about running that shop and being a good daughter, and being a good daughter equals being capable of running the shop by herself and taking that on so her dad can retire. And so, but regardless though, we get introduced to this idea that there might be a new beginning, a new hope for Ember, right? Regardless though, Ember basically starts to get really anxious about everything, Wade included, all of that. Her father actually ends up saying that he's gonna gift her the shop. Before all of this, her and Wade, this is why I've started to annotate plots, you guys. You all, trying to get better at that. This is why I've started to annotate plots, because my ADHD just goes wild when I'm trying to detail a plot. Anyway, they had a great, lovely date. That was the first one. But then basically when she tells Wade that, she can't really see him anymore because fire and water don't mix, and she's getting closer and closer to the shop thing, and her being quote accosted with this opportunity, of doing something she actually might really enjoy and love and do for herself, is making her feel very guilty about not wanting to run the shop and not even realizing she doesn't want to run the shop. She essentially tells Wade that they can't see each other anymore. And as kind of a Hail Mary of sorts, but not necessarily a Hail Mary in a way of oh my God, please, if I do this for you, will you stay with me? But a Hail Mary of okay, well, if this is the case, I need to do something first. We need to do this first. Ember has a heartbreaking story about not being, and this is another way how Element City is not made for fire people, right? And is not inclusive to fire people. When she was a child, she really wanted to go see this flower called a vivisteria. And the special thing about a vivisteria is that it can survive in all kinds of environments, even in fire. Don't ask me to explain how that works, okay? But this is the story. They were denied access to the museum because they're fire people. And she never got to see a vivisteria. And then the museum flooded, and now she'll never get to see one again. So Wade, in a Hail Mary of, let me do this for you. Let me just do this for you. I gotta show you this. gets his friend Gail, right? The head inspector lady, who is an air person, by the way. And Gail creates an air bubble in the water for Ember to step in, with boots, of course. And for Wade to push her along all the way through the underwater museum to the Vivisteria tree. And when I tell you, I need a tissue already. I can't. When I tell you, this scene gives me life. First of all, it's so beautiful. The animation is gorgeous. The gesture is gorgeous. So beautiful. Gail helping out. So beautiful. And of course, she does have a limited time. That air will slowly dissipate throughout the water, so. But we make it to the Vivisteria tree. And get what starts to happen! Okay. So Ember is fire. Now, much like, what's that one movie called? Much like Stardust. When Ember is feeling joy, she glows. She becomes like the sun. And it's really interesting. I don't think that this is something every fire person necessarily does when they feel joy. I think that this is Ember being a hypersensitive person. And hear me out, because there's a scene early on where when she loses her temper in the red dot sail, and might have been, regardless, early on she loses her temper, and a couple of fire people comment kind of off screen in the background. She can hear it, and to her it makes her feel bad, but to me that comment always stood out, and it was, wow, she almost went full purple. I've never seen someone go full purple before. And what this means is how the hotter a flame gets, it changes colors, right? The blue flame is the hottest flame. And so what happens is the more pent up rage and temper she's got, the more she goes from red to blue to purple. And so, a fire person saying they've never seen someone go full purple before. And they could tell she nearly reached it. Ember has a lot of feelings. And they get expressed either through this explosion, right, when they're negative and pent up. And say negative and pent up, not just negative. Right? It's the penting up. Is that even a thing? That is creating the explosion. So the feelings in and of themselves aren't bad. It's the how she's handling them, or not at all. And then there's the opposite spectrum of that. And as a deeply hypersensitive person, I'm fully aware that being able to feel the hardest feelings somehow also equates to me being able to feel some of the most highest feelings. And this gets showcased. So she's going up to the Vivisteria tree, right? Wade's swimming her along. And because she is like the sun, right? She's a flame. She's a very bright light. This is me being a little theorizer, okay? Film theory. Sorry you're retiring, Matt Pat. I know you're not really retiring, but I was sad. I cried with you. Okay, my little film theory is that because Ember very much mimics the sun, when she gets, and all these flowers have been underwater for a very long time, but we know that Vivisteria trees survive under extremely strenuous circumstances. So we know this tree is still alive. And what happens when trees don't get sun, but they're still able to survive and live? They just become dormant. So all these flowers are closed and they're dormant. And the second that Ember comes up to the Vivisteria, it opens. And in an opening, she glows. I'm sorry, if you hear the heater, I have to keep it on. Otherwise my snake gets too cold, and we can't have that. So I'm literally getting emotional because there's nothing that gets me more emotional than people experiencing pure joy and me feeling something inside them heal. And this is the scene. She goes up to it and it opens, and I kid you not, this bitch begins to glow, like just glow, and now she's not like the sun, she is the sun, and the whole tree blooms, it just blooms underwater. And they're swimming around it, and there's fish, and it's so beautiful, like you guys. This also, I put off making this video. I knew I was gonna get like way too fucking excited about it, like way too emotional about it. It's so, that scene is like one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen. Like aesthetically, emotionally, tonally, like it is just beautiful. And to seal the deal after this, like they realize they're running out of time. It's very stressful for a second, but they get out, and Wade is feeling very remorseful. He's like, oh my God, I am so sorry I put you through that. And Ember's like, are you effing kidding me? She doesn't say effing, of course, it's Pixar, but are you kidding me? Like that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Like I saw a Vivisteria, and she is so thrilled. And Wade makes this crazy suggestion that maybe they touch. And they haven't touched before. And so far in the film, we've only seen elements or people, elementals of the same kind interact physically. So we don't know what's gonna happen here. And the way the movie depicts this is just gorgeous. But we'll get into that in the detailed notes, because I kind of went on a tangent with the Vivisteria tree, but I thought that was a really important plot point. Okay, this is a very important plot point. Because it's after this that prompts the lovely and like very romantic, but not at all like overly so scene that comes after. And when they touch, they realize they can touch. First of all, they can. One is not vaporizing the other, and the other is not putting the other out. In fact, what's happening is their chemistry is sort of bonding and changing to match the others in the best way it can. And the way that happens, or rather, in the way that we see this happening in the movie, like the way that the movie communicates that this is happening, other than, Wade saying it way later, is that we get like a close-up of their molecules, like their water and fire, I don't know, yeah, they're like molecules vibrating and like acclimating to each other, and you realize that they can touch, and they dance, and it's so beautiful, and I love it so much. But after this, things get a little crazy, because Ember realizes that her temper is actually trying to tell her that she doesn't want to run the shop, but then her dad is actually like, he ends up going to like creating a celebration for her to go ahead and run the shop. He even creates like a whole new beautiful like sign for the shop, I think called Ember's Place or something like that. Ember's Fireplace or something like that. And things get really stressful for her because she just genuinely like can't not succumb to the expectations that were put upon her. She can't even consider ever doing glass work. She can't even consider actually being with Wade, even though she now knows that they can touch and it's magical when they did. All of this culminates in essentially like Wade, is really sad. Wade, he is really sad, but he goes to like make a stand. And I should mention that before this happens, we have a very interesting thing. So Ember's mom is a bit of a psychic, and there's this Fireland tradition where two fire people will light incense, and the way that the smoke burns tells you if it's a match or if they're not meant to be. So it's kind of like trying to find out if it's your soulmate or not, sort of vibe. You would think Wade would not be able to participate in this test, and that is what her mom thinks too, which is why she sits them both down once she finds out that Wade is the one that Ember's been like gushing over in secret. She sits them both down and I will prove to you that this can't work, that elements don't mix. See, she can light her own incense. Can you? And Wade, being so ingenious how he is, uses his body of water, literal body composed completely of water molecules, standing, like he pulls up his shirt so it's just like his stomach, stands over Ember, not over, in front of Ember, and regulates the molecules of water in his body to magnify Ember's light, so much so that it's kind of like taking a magnifying glass to concrete under sunlight in a really bright day. And lights the fucking incense. But do we get to see the results? No, we don't. They're really smart. No, we don't. So, I mentioned this. So all of this culminates to the ceremony where Ember is getting the shop gifted to her. And it's a big ceremony. It's a retirement ceremony for her dad. All of Firetown is there. It's a whole big ass thing. And Ember, of course, is going through with it because what else is she to do? She feels that there is no choice for her. To be fair, her dad doesn't really help, okay? To be fair. Neither does her mom, but her mom does change her tune. And I appreciate that. She does so a lot quicker than her dad too, So during this celebration, Wade kind of interrupts and kind of airs out the dirty laundry to everyone that they touched, and it was lovely, and it was actually more amazing than they ever could have thought. How Ember needs to tell her dad the truth, all of this stuff, and he ends up spilling the fact that it was her who caused the water leak, and her dad did not know that it was her who caused the water leak. So this is big bad, and everybody's mad at her, and it all sucks, and Wade is really upset, of course, because she literally, even though he laid everything out, put his heart on the line, everything, not even in a stupid guy kind of way either, although doing it publicly at the ceremony, not super advisable in my opinion, but he's a young adult, so I'll give him a pass. She still is no, Wade, I don't love you, or whatever equivalent of that. And you know who steps in? Mom's like, no, Ember, it's a match. Honey, it's a match. No matter though, not happening. So right as Wade is about to get on a train to go off and, travel his heartbreak away, he realizes that the tempered glass that Ember had put over the wall broke. It broke. It did not withstand. And there is water, a whole fuck ton of it, rushing right towards Firetown. And what does this man do? He goes to help. Just goes to help because he loves her. Anyway. Okay. There's this really special flame. It is their family flame. It is a blue flame. It is contained in this very beautiful sort of hearth that sits in the center of a room in Firetown, and in the fireplace, which is their shop in Firetown. And in Fireland, every single family has a blue flame. And when you're a fire baby, you get fed the blue flame somehow to help make you stronger. And it's very important, this ancestral blue flame. It must not go out. And so Ember, desperately trying to save the blue flame, with Wade's help, they get stuck. I'm about to cry. I'm talking about this part. Okay. They get stuck, in a place where the only way for Wade to live is for them to let the water in. And we can't do that because if we let the water in, Ember dies. So what ends up happening is Wade painfully and slowly evaporates away. And we do think that he's gone. They definitely make it seem that way. And by the way, it's Wade who saves the fucking flame. And part of why I get so emotional talking about this movie is because being a woman in this world, when, like, you're not even taught by people to be vigilant of men, like, you're just taught by your personal experiences and your collective experience as a woman, whether you were assigned female at birth or not, like, you learn to be hyper vigilant of men. And I haven't realized, like, how much it impacts me on a positive level to see really wholesome, like, aligned masculine men. And Wade really is just that. Like, he is a fierce protector when he needs to be. But he also fiercely feels his feelings. And I'm not saying everybody needs to feel their feelings like water people, you know what I mean? I mean, I obviously definitely do. But I'm not saying that's, like, the default. I'm just saying, like, while they took it in extremes with the whole water people and you know, at least his family, like, feeling a lot and displaying it just as much, it is a really beautiful commentary of, like, look, he can not only be incredibly emotionally intelligent, incredibly empathetic, incredibly, like, emotionally expressive, he is also a fierce protector, and this is exactly what he does. He saves the flame, and he doesn't allow Ember to let water in, and instead allows himself to evaporate, and tells her that he is so grateful to, like, have experienced what they did, and that, like, he'll go like this, you know? And when you get, I'm sorry, I'm gonna grab a tissue. Okay, we're fine. And when you get to Ember, like, when the water, you know, has been gone or has been drained, and her parents, like, or not her parents, I think it's, like, neighborhood people, like, community people, who uncover her in, like, that back, like, I guess, like, pantry thing, I don't even know, that they were in. She, like I said, right, when she's really happy, she glows. When she's very sad, and when she's really mad, she blows up when it's pent up. But when she's very sad, like, she is dim, like, it's almost like, the way to explain it, it's like, when she's normal, the fire, like, fills up her face, and when she's really sad, it's almost like her face gets so gaunt because there's not enough flame, you know what I mean? Because she literally, like, her life force is flowing at a lower level because she's just so overcome with sadness. And that is how we find her when, you know, after everything. And what we come to know is that Wade actually evaporated directly into the rocks, like, right above the, I don't know, area they were in. And it takes a quick little game that we learn about when we go to Wade's family's house, and it's the crying game. And it's essentially a game where you say things to try to get someone to try to get someone to cry, but their goal is to not cry. And of course, the comedic effect of this is that, you know, like, they very much easily cry. And during this game, Wade actually does make Ember cry. And now it is her turn to make him cry so that he can cry himself completely out of the rocks. And it turns out that he's actually alive after all. And after all of this culminates, you know, they get the whole water issue fixed with the Firetown thing, and Ember goes off, or rather, it plans to go off into this internship to do the glass blowing and the glass artistry stuff with Wade. Not like him doing it, but, like, they're gonna move out together to go to the place where this internship is. And we actually find that there's a couple of neighborhood regulars that were willing to run the shop. And we come up on the fireplace now, a fully communal space where not just fire people hang out, but Gale comes into, and Claude is no longer the only, you know, odd element out. You have earth people or grass people, and you have air people, and you have the fire people, but you also have some water people. And it's so cool just to see how we've come to this place of better integration for the fire people. And I would argue that, if that museum were to be open again, hopefully there would be a way where they would ensure that fire people could also enter because of the deeper integration now. But the best part of the resolution is when we come to the ending of the movie. And Wade and Ember are about to step onto a train to go to I don't remember the name. I don't even know if they mentioned it. If they did, it was like once. But to go to the city where her internship is. And there was this story from her dad and her mom, and it gets revealed to her. And this is kind of like set up as why it's so important to her dad that they preserve the flame, and why he kind of like unhealthily channeled all of that like desire to preserve his culture into her running the shop. This is my film theory brain, by the way. This isn't something the movie directly tells you, but just like psychologically analyzing, this is what I'm like, we're given this story for us to understand where her father is unfortunately unhealthily expressing his trauma in the way of like kind of putting a lot of this pressure for Ember to be this person who wants to run the shop, and kind of seemingly only giving her that career path in life. And the story is that when they left the Fire Nation, even though they were like totally destitute and unable to really continue living with the Fire Nation, shit. This is an Avatar: The Last Airbender! Nah! Okay. When they left Fireland, even though they were totally destitute and like would have not been able to continue their lives as they were there, her grandfather was really like calloused and disrespectful towards her father and her mother for leaving Fireland. And when they left, her father gave her grandpa this very important and honorable bow that is prevalent in their culture. It is a way that people honor each other, and it is he was honoring his father and saying goodbye in a way that was of the utmost honor. And his father did not return the bow, and that is because his father had all his judgments for him leaving Fireland, in spite of all of the context. Like, if you really care that much, if it really irks you that much that your son is leaving Fireland, then why don't you help him stay in Fireland with his wife and help them get back on their feet? Like, she's literally pregnant. What the hell? Oh yeah, did I mention that they were pregnant with Ember when they had to flee to Element City? Yeah, so horrible grandpa, terrible parenting. I realized he wasn't a kid anymore at that point, but you never stop being a parent, and yeah, that was terrible, just terrible. And so the way that the script pays us getting this story, pays off this story showing up, is not only, of course, the transformation that we see in Ember's father and the acceptance of her not running the shop and stuff. And yeah, did it take the shop being completely destroyed, and Ember probably being presumed dead or missing for a while, and then thinking that Wade legitimately died, and watched their daughter be in literal heartbreak over it? Yeah, it took all that, but we got the transformation we needed. And to complete it, right? Ashva did his part, and now this is Ember's turn. He broke a cycle in order to create this beautiful relationship with his daughter as she goes off and creates new beginnings for herself, finds hope. As she listens to her emotions, he prioritized the familial ties. So he did his work of accepting her, all of that. And now it is her turn to show him that she knows what it is to honor who she is and where she's from, and that no matter where she goes, she will carry that with her. And therefore she will carry Fireland and him and her mom and the fireplace everywhere she goes. Y'all already know what I'm gonna say. She does the bow. And he returns it. It's so emotional. Like, Ember's mom's face is everything for me because I'm like, this is exactly how I feel, girl. Oh my God. And then the last frame of the movie is just her stepping on that train. That was not a brief plot line, but that's fine. We'll live. This video is already gonna be insanely long, so I literally might just say, like, the title might just be like a way too long review of my new favorite movie, Elemental. Okay, anyways, that's the plot, y'all, and just the little bits of tangent that I gave you doesn't even compare to, like, the actual incredibly well-crafted nature of this film. Really, really, truly. Like, seriously, okay? Now that you know the plot, let's just get into the detailed notes. Okay, so the balloon signals hope. I already told you that. We also noticed that there's no fourth wave, i.e. no fire integration. Yeah, we quickly know the stakes of fire hitting water. Very early on, we are shown what happens, like when Ember's mom kind of gets a little bit of water thrown her way, and it's quite traumatic. And she has to, like, eat some fire to, like, help herself a little bit. And okay, so fire language. There is such a thing as fire language, and it's very cool and quite believable, actually, and creative in the way that they executed that. I thought that was fun. So the blue flame, the ancestral flame that I'm talking about, I thought it was interesting to note that blue is also the color of the throat chakra, which is tied to speaking your truth and being intuitive. Intuitive? That's not what I said. Oh, no. Speaking your truth and being aligned in your truth. Yes, okay. So, because it's in the context of this blue flame also, you can also say, like I said prior, it kind of has this feeling and symbolism of honoring the generations that came before, i.e. honoring connection, right? To those that put us here. Ember's talent is seen very early on with the lollipops, as is her temper. So before we even see her fix the glass, we actually, we do. We see her fix the glass first, but then at some point we see her, like, manipulate some lollipops to, like, look like a certain kid that was getting the lollipop. And I think, forget that tangent. And yeah, so that's seen really early on, even though to her, she doesn't really see it as a talent. It's literally a skill that she's had to develop in order to fix her mistakes. But in her temper is also seen very early on. And like I said, we actually kind of see this happen in tandem. We watch her lose her temper, and then we watch her fix the glass real fast, and, like, she could literally do it in her sleep. So mom's psychic tendency is shown very early on, and Ashva's work ethic as well. I found it really interesting that we have kind of like the cliche of the intuitive woman with a pragmatic, not even woman, the intuitive person with a pragmatic person. And those are the two halves that make the couple. They do work, though. They do. And I think that's why it's kind of a cliche, because for whatever reason, this tends to work. But I think it's cute in the way that it's depicted. What is this word? It looks like I tried to say temper, but I don't think that's what I wrote. Yeah, you know what? It's fine. Because there is something about her learning to blow glass in order to fix her mistakes. So I think that maybe it was temper. I don't know. But she does have a very big desire. Oh, you know what? Maybe I did say temper. I said temper is a constant juxtaposed with her desire to get her dad to rest. And then I mentioned how she developed glass blowing largely through fixing her own messes. So what I'm saying is, like, it's interesting because it's like she's always dealing with her temper, and it's always going against her because she perceives her temper as the thing getting in her way of being able to run the shop and therefore helping her dad rest. So this internal struggle. Okay, lazy Ash. I'm sorry. Clever. I loved it. Get off your lazy Ash, you know? Oh my god, grandma's last words. That was silly. That was really silly. Basically, her grandma's last words was like, "Marry fire." And then they poof away. I don't know. Oh my god, I love Claude. My queen. I love him. He's so funny. Claude, the little brass element kid that loves to hang out in the fire shop. So, Fire City undergoes a whole industrial revelation as Ember grows up, and I mentioned this. Just thought it was really interesting to see, and I didn't notice this until probably the second or third watch. We see who Wade is right away, and exposition is actually done incredibly well. So, dads make him sentimental, well, more than he already is, because he's very sentimental, because he lost his dad, and he felt like he actually left a lot of things unsaid when he lost his dad. He, quote, can't lose another job, quote, and, quote, can't seem to find his flow, quote, which is pretty punny and very, very real. So the way that we learn about Wade, I'm just basically commenting on like how the exposition is done really intelligently and in a way that 100% never ever ever feels like we're getting exposition, but that 100% does like tell us exactly who he is, exactly where he is in life, and in fact kind of like hints at that he's got some big trauma that he's been trying to overcome, right? That we later find out that it is because of his dad. So next, I mentioned this, an act of God to get her into the city. And the act of God ends up being her own panic attack. LOL, real. Too real. Okay, so the chase scene was done super well, her chasing Wade to get the citations back. It was engaging, and it capitalizes on the elemental variations. Like I said, this is one of the places where the concept just genuinely gets utilized so well, and you can really tell that they were very innovative with this idea of creating elementals. As in, like, the beings. The way Ember's fire lights up Wade's water captivates him, and her story motivates him to help her. So from the very beginning, it is Ember's light that she doesn't actually see herself, kind of interesting, that gets Wade to notice her. And in this moment, it kind of is her literal light that she like emits off her body because she is fire. But it's the way that it plays through the water in his body and the way that it reflects that kind of makes him stop before he enters the building and kind of starts to listen to her. So I thought that was really interesting because her being such a bright light is a huge theme, and it's something that he is consistently reinforcing to her. Yeah, and then especially, of course, the dad part. He gets very intrigued. So Wade tries to help her connect from the jump. Oh yeah, so Wade tries to help her connect from the jump, trying to get her to tell Fern why she needs time to get the shop in shape, but she's terrified of sharing, likely due to shame, likely due to the shame that her temper often gets the better of her. So Wade obviously can see that, like, Ember doesn't fully know how to connect to people. Like, that's another theme, connection, more of like a micro theme, but it's a huge theme, like, in her inability to run the shop, is that she struggles to make connections with people, and therefore when, impasses come up, she doesn't know how to resolve them in a healthy manner. And Wade understands connection very well, actually, and sort of inherently, for whatever reason, probably his upbringing, but, you know, and I would imagine, like, water people probably have a predisposition to being a little bit more sentimental, but he definitely has, like, a very sentimental family, and a very emotionally aware family, it seems like. So he knows that trying to get her to tell Fern her story would actually, like, probably help her, like, way more than it would actually, like, hurt her, right, and getting any chance of fixing this. But she doesn't understand that, and she's not comfortable, and so she literally cannot bear to see herself as a bad daughter, which is very sad, so she doesn't own up to it, and she essentially kind of, like, blows up, and Fern's office gets kind of fucked, and so does Fern, which is kind of unfortunate. Not, like, as in he gets hurt, but, like, all his leafies that he has, his, like, leafy afro gets burned away. And what's interesting is Ember is very quick to blame Wade for the water damage at the shop when her dad asks who it was. So she's struggling with a big, big, hefty bag of self-denial right now. Or just denial in general. But yeah, so Ember learning about Fireland is beautiful, but also adds to the pressure that she's under. The good daughter comment does not help. This is what I mean when I say her dad doesn't help. Her dad, while, you know, later in the movie we get a very beautiful message of, like, you know, Ember, the dream wasn't the shop, the dream was you. But that is not how the behavior comes across. Her entire life, she's being told that one day she's gonna run this shop. Her entire life, she's being told that one day she can run the shop and her dad can retire, and she's such a good daughter because that's what's gonna happen someday. So, are you really surprised? Like, to me, that was kind of like one of the, like, one or two things that I left the movie kind of being like, okay, that thing could have been addressed a little bit better. Because while we do have the moment of the dream was always you, we don't seem to really have the moment of, I'm sorry I put all this pressure on you to be this person that I didn't even ask if you wanted to be. I feel like that was missing. But I can give them a pass, honestly, because this movie genuinely is just incredible. Yeah, so none of this helps. All of the messaging about elements don't mix don't help either, you know. So Wade, oh my god, I said Wade tripping on puns is hilarious. That was really funny because he was like, wow, you're so hot to Ember, but he literally meant temperature. But obviously she took it, like, not like temperature, and then he just, like, pun after pun after pun comes out, and it was really funny. Airball is cool, and so is Wade, bringing her along so she can talk to Gale. He's supportive at every turn, even every turn through Ember's anxiety. Wade's emotional awareness and empathy for... Who? Oh, for Lute's life struggles. Lute is an airball player, so airball is kind of like basketball, but it's exactly what you think. It's like air elementals flying around and, like, shooting the ball at each other. So the team that Gale is a part of is, like, really struggling right now. They're really losing. It's not good. And their, like, star player is just having like, he's been in a rut, right? And so Wade's emotional awareness and empathy alerts him to the fact that Lute's going through a lot of life struggles. And at first, he kind of embarrasses Ember by cheering Lute on and saying, like, you got this, buddy, we're here for you, we love you, and he's very obnoxious about it, he's very loud about it. Ember is very embarrassed because display of emotions are just not really her thing, and don't really seem to be, like sappy displays of emotion, I should say. It's not that displays of emotion aren't a thing for her family, because they definitely are quite affectionate, but just, like, the sappy aspect of it, she's not used to. But she soon sees how he's able to connect people. And she doesn't realize why yet, but essentially it's because he is just so vulnerable and so open. Seeing Lute find his groove in real time was also a treat, and showing Wade's greater impact. Yeah, not only did, like, he literally got everyone cheering for this guy, and he turns the game around. It's insane. And then what I really enjoyed was Wade literally starts a wave. Like a sporting event wave. But the people are made of water. Yeah, it's just as cool as you think it is. Okay. He makes waves. Haha. Sometimes we have dad jokes. Ember admits to Gale she can see the fun in Cloud Ball, which leads Gale to share that she went with her dad as a child, and that connects Ember and Gale. And they even use, you know, the little terms like fireball and no. I don't even know. Was it fireball? I don't know. Basically, there were like these little derogatory nicknames that they used for each other that they are now using as like a little inside joke thing. So, connection, man. Yeah. So, Ember essentially took a page from Wade's book right there and chose to share and found connection. So, there's that. The pruning joke was really good. Definitely meant for older crowd, but still appropriately executed. There is a joke when they're like flying in the hot air balloon and they like go, I don't know, they're flying next to someone's window and it's this like plant couple. And, you know, like, obviously it's a kid's movie, so there's no compromising like position or anything at all. But if you're an adult, you can sense like what the insinuation is. And when they're like, I think somebody asks what they're doing and they say pruning. I thought it was funny. Anyway, the way Ember displays anger about being unable to see the Vivisteria, but Wade feels through the hurt and fear she must have felt. Okay, I'm sorry, this note's not worded well. So the way Ember displays anger about being unable to see the Vivisteria, but Wade actually is able to feel through that hurt, that anger, to find the hurt and fear that she must have felt being turned away for simply being what she is. And he talks about that to her, right? He doesn't actually probe on the anger. He actually says it must have been really scary and upsetting to have that experience happen to you. And it was, right? She's being told that she literally can't go see this flower because of what she's made of. His insight about his insight about the acceptance of her temper is right on, but left as a seed planted for us, like when he tells her that maybe her temper is trying to tell her something. Again, this movie's really well done. It sprinkles little things that are going to come up and pay off later, like good writing's supposed to do. The pruning joke returns as flirting. Yes, OMG. It was cute. So he doesn't pressure, but rather remarks that he senses she likes him and leaves her the option to meet him. What a guy. I love this guy. I love it so much. Mama smells love. She starts to smell love on Ember, and it just puts her head into a tizzy trying to figure out who it is. So the whole date is magic. It's absolutely magic. It's magic of their elements combining, and the song "Steal the Show," performed by Love, was literally on my Spotify top 5. So yeah, I was deeply touched by that scene and that song, and Man, the only thing that beats it is that Vivisteria tree scene that I'm telling you. Yeah, no, for real. Or you know, the bow, but like for the romance. Yeah. You get it. Let's see. He smiles in the movies. But does not get annoyed by her light. So it's interesting because they go to the movies, right? And she obviously is a flame, so she's very bright in a dark movie theater. So she like puts on her hood and she feels really self-conscious, but like Wade just like smiles at her. Like he could be annoyed and realize like, oh shit, maybe it wasn't a good idea to bring you to a movie because, you know, you're like literal light and we're supposed to be in the dark. But no, he just smiles and goes on about his day. Her shine is amplified by his water in the photo booth. It blows out the pics, but it's still so cute, and it makes him a mystery to her mom later, because her mom ends up finding the little photo booth strip. But because she blew him out, because her fire reflected in his water, it just looks like pairs of eyes. Or, yeah, a pair of eyes, I should say. Okay, let's go. Oh, yes, he protects her in the elevator. Very sweet. When there's, like, a bunch of people coming in. Let's see. Being around him encourages her to play and, in turn, allows her to connect with other elements effortlessly. This scene, during their date, they are... some outdoor balcony situation. They're looking over the city or looking over the park, and 4 kids, 2 grass kids, 1 water kid, 1 air kid, get excited by the smoke that by the smoke bubbles that Ember is creating. And she ends up creating even more elaborate smoke bubbles as she's like realizing that they're into it. And I couldn't help but notice that our little miss, who can't connect to even her own fire people in the context of running the shop, has absolutely no issues connecting to elements of other kinds. Just like she would have no issue connecting with her own element when she's in a space that she feels like she's being her own person, right? When she's not in a space where all she can see is these expectations that have been laid upon her. And Wade helps bring that out for her. So Ember drawing water and fire droplets surrounded by Vivisterias on the inventory list. Very cute, some romantic doodling. She starts to soften due to the fact that she is falling in love with Wade, as well as to the fact that his genuinely has a lovely influence on her. Wade always making the best of a bad situation. He does tend to do that. Aerial views of the park are a masterpiece. Genuinely, I'm telling. Like this movie is visually very stunning. She's a rainbow of colors, and so is he. They light each other up like the sun and water droplets in the air. Fire and water. And yes, when I said like the sun and water droplets in the air, I am talking about what happens when water sits in the air a certain way and the sun reflects through it and we get rainbows. Yeah, that was really good because she ends up creating a rainbow of sorts by stepping on different gemstones. So her body changes color, right? And he ends up creating a rainbow by spraying water so that, you know, it would just dissipate in a certain way in the air and create a rainbow. And so it's interesting because while they are both each creating individual rainbows, this feels to me very much like a symbolism of how together they also are very much like a rainbow. 2 elements that don't normally mix coming together to create something beautiful and different. A rainbow. Wade in the flowers was really great. That's how he finds a way to come visit her and give her some news. And he like gets flowers delivered to her and is the water in the vases. I can't. It's too good. Ashva is deeply traumatized by his past, especially the storm that caused them to leave. That even watering down their food to make it more variable and so other elements can enjoy it, is insulting and gets Wade banned, but he calls it panned because, you know, English is his second language. Let's see. That was a funny little joke, the panned thing. Talking to Wade helps her on many levels. So she gets some emotional release, some revelation into herself a little bit. Solutions kind of start to show up. The Vivisteria becomes their symbol. She makes a Vivisteria out of sand by heating it up and making it glass, and then she makes this like orb with a Vivisteria inside of it. It's quite cool, actually. And it becomes their symbol before he even shows her one, or rather brings her to the place so that she can show herself one, because the reason it opened up is because of her light. So meeting Wade's family is great. I love how we have like the not politically correct uncle. That was kind of funny. I appreciated a little bit of queer representation, very casual in there, because Wade's sister is a lesbian. Love it when we have like subtle representation like that. I want like overt representation? Like, sure, but I actually think that movies including subtle representation like that is, not saying it's a replacement for like, you know, real forefront representation, but in my opinion it does have its place, because if we can just casually create visibility for people that don't normally have visibility in media, then hopefully that can translate into society being more casual about those people just existing, period. As well as for them being shown in media, of course. The Ripples are a loving, connected family, and I love, love, love to see it. Let's see. So, oh yeah, let's see. Marco and Polo. That's Wade's like nephew's names. That was funny. The thought bubbles were funny. That was kind of cute. And the crying game was funny, which we did talk about. I don't know. I said something here that I don't even know. But okay, so Mama Ember versus the Doorman is way too funny. That was hysterical. Don't underestimate Mama Ember. Love that we get to see Ember's flame at work, right? Likely because she, and I've said this before, developed a glass blowing due to her mistakes. She braces for a reprimand when she creates the new picture, and instead is warmly rewarded. It's a healing moment, and it's beautiful, and she gets a glimpse into herself, her real self. Water reflecting her truth back at her. Echo. Stop. I turned it all the way down, but you know, whatever. So literally, like, water, Wade and his family, made of water, reflecting her truth right back at her. Okay. What she sees that makes her cry broke my heart. The crying game. What ends up making her cry is I believe she pictures wanting so like badly to be with Wade, but knowing, or at least feeling that she knows that she can't. That shit broke my heart. Their collaboration results in the tickets being canceled, which is very exciting, right? This theme of we're better together. Wade's mom shows her character by following up on her compliments of Ember's talent, and sets her up with a life-changing opportunity after meeting her for literally one night. Wade was clearly modeled awesome human quote quote / personable behaviors, I should say relational behaviors and values. She even says, I have an original Ember, emphasizing how honored she is and validating Ember's talent. This authentic recognition and opportunity triggers Ember, who feels if she took it, she'd be letting her entire lineage down. What her temper is telling her is she may want a different path, but feels like she can't take it. Mama sets out to prove one thing and proves the opposite, that they're a match. I've already told you about this. And points for creativity, Wade. I also already told you about this. Perfect building of stakes via the love reading, Ashva's news/gift, and deeper dive into parent's story and Ashva's shame, which really is/should be his father's shame. Very sad that Ashva carries that on his behalf, because he is not the one who wronged his son by not returning the vow. Or helping him stay in Fireland if it was really that important. Ember is crushed, and Wade reminds her of her shine and agency, if even for a moment. Also, go Gale for helping with Mission Vivisteria. Let's see, what does this say? So, Wade reassures her every step of the way. Ember's light, this is stuff I already told you when I went on that tangent, how it mimics the sun, so she makes the tree bloom, and it is magic on all levels. I said bravo animators and story team. She shines brighter when she's happy, which I did mention. And I did right here too. She's a big feeler, able to go to full purple, but also brilliant white. Wade is a G! Okay, guys, we're getting to the end here. So he's so open. It's so very beautiful. His calmness complements her anxiety in a symbiotic sort of way. He extends a hand and waits, accepting her till she's ready to accept him. And they touch. I told you about this. As they dance, they emit a spiral-like steam that resembles the smoke from the love test, from the incense. Confirmation of its positive outcome. Gorgeous pan out of Element City. Wade always trying to champion Ember's brightest self. Ember assures loving Wade would mean leaving fire behind, and he doesn't get it, because he could never divorce her from her people. But because she was raised with, quote, elements don't mix, quote, she can't even consider it, so she runs. Wade really tries, man, but Ember just can't get out of her own way. As Ember lies, the glass breaks. Also, Mom coming in, talking sense, and she still doesn't get it. This is when Mom intervenes and says, Ember, you guys are a match. What are you doing? So the more she lies, the more the glass breaks. Like how lying to ourselves can often break us bit by bit, even when we've built walls to keep us blind. Ember's dad nearly repeats, especially too, because think about this. The source of the water going there, it's the fact that this wall was broken, right? And a lot of the times, like, we didn't fully fix the wall. We fixed it with tempered glass, which clearly seemed to work for a time, but there was just way too much water. And that's kind of an analogy for Ember and her feelings. She has had years and years and years of this pent-up rage. She's had years and years and years of feeling these feelings of not wanting to run the shop, but not even being able to examine those feelings because having them wasn't an option. those feelings that she's consistently suppressing and that are coming out through her outbursts are kind of like the equivalent of the water consistently running along the tempered glass. The more you suppress, the more water there will be, and it doesn't matter how strong your tempered glass is. Ember's dad really repeats his father's mistake here, by, basically freaking the fuck out on her because she's the one who caused the leak, treating her as if she did it on purpose. It's all just like way to just perpetuate your own ancestral trauma, my man. And this is also why I feel like we really did need a moment where her father apologizes for the pressures that he's, I guess, unintentionally put upon her. Seemed pretty intentional, but I understand that like the impact of that wasn't really intentional. She goes to the park to think, and wouldn't have if Wade hadn't familiarized her with the city. So I thought that was interesting. When she realizes why she can't toss the glass Vivisteria, the dam breaks. This is the part of my plot recap that if I had an outline, I would have been able to give you better. But essentially, there's a little bit of a separation, right, between the ceremony where her secret gets out and Wade gets rejected and the dam actually breaking. Because Wade is obviously going off, and I told you he, gives up on his, breakup trip plan. And Ember sees that the water is coming because she decided to go to Element City and spend a little bit of time at this park that her and Wade spent time at. And she has the glass Vivisteria that he gave back to her, basically, I believe. And she's pissed. Yeah, she's pissed. And she is about to throw it, into the water away. And she realizes that she just simply cannot, because that would be like throwing Wade away. And I'm sorry. Okay, I'm getting distracted. And literally, right at the peak of that emotion, the dam fucking breaks. So, love how not all of Wade's family is literally as emotional as he and the rest are, but they still very much are. It's just very clear that it's a lesser level of it, but I appreciate the diversity within it. No second thought, Wade just goes to help, literally. Hold the door! PTSD from Game of Thrones, anyone? Okay. Even when dying, he chooses to calm her down by remaining calm himself and telling her his truth. He focuses on the light as he goes. And she is so dim. Dad realizes his mistakes too late. Breaks me to hear her say that she's a bad daughter. Yeah, it did. It really broke me to hear that. Okay, Dad, you didn't make it seem that way, so, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, the whole, he says, Ember, the dream was never this place. The dream was always you. Then why didn't you make it seem like that? And why are you saying this instead of not? I'm so sorry that I made the dream about this place and not about what it really was, which was you. Minor tweak in the grand scheme of this movie, okay? But still, gotta mention it. The crying game comes back to the same... Wait. Yeah, the crying game comes back. The script is killing it. Oh yeah, all the tears. Happy, sad, everything. Her confession of love seals the deal, and he cries himself all the way back. The kiss makes them glow, and it's gorgeous. This is the first time we get to see them kiss, the first and only, and it is so lovely. Of course, it's just a little peck because it's Disney and Pixar, but again, just lovely, and runs along with this theme of affection being shown and how healing and necessary it really is. I love that. Months later, we have the fourth wave in action. Do we actually see a mural? I don't think so. But we do see an actual fourth wave in action. Elements are mixing even more now. They've been mixing into Firetown and other elemental shops. I thought my lip was bleeding, sorry. Okay. Yes, we got more elements in Firetown, and other elemental shops are filling in Firetown too. Like, now you're getting some grass shops in Firetown. Maybe there's a water shop somewhere. Like, this is very exciting. Very, very exciting. The integration that we didn't have when Ember's parents came, and not even when she was a child, and more so, but even not quite as much at all, during the events of this whole movie, we have gone leaps and bounds forward, and Element City has quite literally entered its fourth wave, and it is so satisfying to see. Claude romance game is still going strong, but now he is hitting on a girl his own age, and I think she's a water girly actually, so that's cute. And he does the whole thing like, ugh, my queen. I love him. I love him so much. So wholesome. Yes to Gale and Fern. What a good ship. Let's go. Love that the neighborhood folks took over the shop, and Ashva and... Is her name Mana? I wrote a name down. I said Mama. Okay. And Ashva and Mama get to retire in love. Yes, that was very cute. I really enjoyed that. It was very cute to like... It switched. Like, there were two people who were always sitting in this table off to the side, and they ended up being the ones who took over the shop, and then now it's Ashva and Ember's mom sitting there, like, playing their little checkers or whatever they're playing and chilling out, and being flirty, which is awesome. I love it. I love the love. Ember giving her dad the goodbye, all caps, was everything we needed. And his return signals a true healing of that generational wound left there by her grandfather. Then off she goes and we see more in the credits. The last credit scene of her father, and we see more in the credits. The credits gives us an array of really lovely little depictions. We get a little bit of life since they've retired, since Ashva and her mom have retired. You know, they're paddle boating, and as they said, there's more time for hanky panky, so they show that in like a kid appropriate way. Just like affection between couples that are genuinely in love like that. Like, I love to see it, because we see so much goddamn passive aggression and horrible interpersonal relation skills, like in shows and movies. And like, I get it. It's for conflict's sake. It's also for the fact that like people don't behave amazingly all the time kind of thing. But like, I feel like we see more toxic relationships romantically in film and TV than we actually see like secure, functional ones. So I really enjoy when those get hyped up a lot. So I love it when we're getting the affection between people, whether it's like familial affection or romantic affection. I love that this movie isn't shy about showing that affection is important, a part of life, and 100% needed. I love it. The last credit scene is of her hugging her dad, Wade crying, and mom just standing there proud. And this is after she's come home to visit from the internship for a little bit. And it's just, where's my tissue? It's just so sweet. Like it's just so sweet, because like, they really worked some hard generational shit and made it through, and they have this relationship, and they are going to thrive off of it forever, for as long as they live. And much like with Encanto, like, talking about generational trauma and like changing it and doing better is so important. And I love that this movie does that so well, you guys. God damn it. I love that this movie does that so well, friends. Like, I really love that it does that. I really, really love that it does that. And that's it. That's the notes that I have. We made it, and it's only an hour and 36 minutes. will get cut down too, but probably not a whole lot shorter than this, but oh my gosh, we made it. Do you see why I had to like give you like themes, or spoiler-free themes, plot breakdown, and then get into the intricacies? Because I couldn't just get into the notes without giving you the plot. But I couldn't give you the plot and just leave it at that. Because this movie, aside from that one criticism that I have, where we don't get an official apology from Dad, we just get this weird, like, oh, this is what it was all about all along, honey, sort of line. In the context of everything, though, the way it happens, like, I'm fine with it. It's just something that I myself, as someone who has done the work to better my generational trauma and things like that, for me, that aspect of the parent saying, I am sorry for passing this on to you, is really important for the person, for the child. So it was just a little bit unfortunate that it didn't, like, that to me, we didn't get like an official apology. But I also can honor that he doesn't have to necessarily say the words. Like, if this is real life, yes, please say those words. Like, it costs you nothing. But for the movie's sake, for time's sake, for, you know, whatever, for the artistry's sake of it all, I can honor that in his acceptance of Wade, in his clear change of demeanor around the whole thing, and in the way that the line is delivered of when he says, oh, honey, this place was never the dream, you were the dream. When he says, like, oh, Ember, this place was never the dream. In the line delivery, I can sort of hear a little bit of a, that would come from a person realizing, like, man, I really sent the wrong message there, didn't I? So, I can honor that. But that's what I got for you. I loved Elemental. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I would probably rewatch it once a year, or maybe just when I'm feeling sad, because it just hit so many marks for me, but I could not get it out of my head because it is genuinely such a well-done film. It is such a well-done film. I don't know what the Oscars have going on. I hope it gets nominated. I don't know. Not that that stuff really matters all that much to me anymore, but I know that it matters for the filmmakers who created it, so I do hope that there's some recognition, because I really do think it was a masterpiece. Like, my boyfriend is not easily brought to emotions, especially like when it comes to films, but he cried both times during certain parts in Elemental, and he was so surprised by that. He was like, wow, man, this movie got me again. I didn't think it was gonna get me on the second time. I will bet you it'll get him every time. So, thank you so much. Like, genuinely, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please consider liking this video, and please consider clicking the bell, because I do post regularly, but I don't post on a schedule. Also, comment either a fire or a water emoji here. I guess comment whatever element emoji you like. It can be air, it can be fire, it can be plants, or it can be water. So if you've reached the end of this video and you want to let me know, go ahead and comment that. Or if you have something else to comment, maybe something that I talked about or an insight, go ahead and throw that in the comments as well. Please, of course, remember to be kind. We're all humans here with feelings. Let's see, you can also find me on social media, as well as my music account, which right now just consists of some mini covers as I am working on getting things recorded and properly squared away. But that would be at Mac in the Music, and then of course you can find me at Embodying Mystical Mac on Instagram. I have a TikTok if you want to check it out, but honestly I'm way more active on Instagram, so go find me there. And then if you are so inclined, you can check out my affiliate links below for It Just Works deodorant as well as for natural Shilajit. You may also book a tarot reading if that is something that you are interested in. And if you are interested in one but you want like testimonials or something like that, I'm happy to offer that to you. Just shoot me an email and I will send you like little tarot references of sorts, if that makes sense. Lastly, very much lastly, I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you for your patience with me. Thank you for supporting my content, whether you support one aspect of the kinds of content that I create or you support all of it. I'm really grateful, and I'm just grateful in general for you, that you exist, that we're here sharing this space together, if even in a virtual manner. And I hope you stay mystical. I hope you stay grounded, and I will catch you next time. Whoa, way off right there. If it's real, then darling, let me know. Wouldn't mind if you steal the show. Literally, you guys. Spotify top 5. That one song. It's so good. Bye.